You're listening to the Staffa Corner Podcast, a Staffa-tarian look at entertainment and life with your host, Greg Staffa.
My guest this episode is talented actress who can be seen on shows like Grimm, The Librarian, AP Bio, and right now, FUBAR Season 2. Aparna Brielle, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your childhood and upbringing.
Yeah, I was a classical Indian dancer. I did an art form called Bharatanatyam. It's like a 2,000 to 3,000-year-old dance form. So I was a professional dancer for most of my childhood, actually. And that's one of the many things that made me really fall in love with performance art. I, however, always wanted to be an actor. I tell this story all the time, but I used to think when I was a kid, I was obsessed with the Magic School Bus. And I thought you actually get turned into a cartoon in a machine, and then you go on adventures with Miss Frizzle. So I was very imaginative. And I used to ask my parents, can you put me on that TV show? I want to go on those adventures. That's when I started, they were like, no, you don't get turned into a cartoon. You have to go into a studio. You have to use your voice and act. I didn't know what that was. At the time, I was really small. So I kind of started with this overall performance art background. I did all kinds of dance forms. I did theater in school. And then at some point in high school, I realized some people actually do move to LA and make it a career. And I didn't even know that was possible. I'm from Portland, Oregon, and people don't really do that there. So I think around high school, I started thinking, I'm going to go try things out in LA. I'll finish college. I'll do that. And I'm going to go try things out in LA and see what happens. And here we are.
I'm always fascinated when I talk to a dancer, and you had said that you had done various types of dancing, but one of them was a 3,000-year-old kind of style. Yeah. What makes someone, a young child go, I want to learn a 3,000-year-old dance style versus what I'm seeing on MTV right now?
Well, I was really lucky. I was raised in being Indian and having parents that had moved here from India and that really wanted me to have an experience growing up here that really allowed me to explore this culture and be of this culture, but also very much be in touch with my roots. That was really where it came from. I grew up seeing, I was very young when I started doing, I think I was 6 when I started doing classical Indian dance. But before that, I had seen so many videos of these dancers and I just looked up to, you're dressed in the most celestial, you've got jewels and everything all over your hair. They've got this intense makeup, this really beautiful costume. And I was just gagged, for lack of better terms. I was just blown away by what I was seeing. And I would see some of these performers live in Portland from some of the different studios that were in town. And so when I was little, I was just whoa, they seem so regal and so elegant. And the dance that they're doing is so intense. I think I could do that. I want to show that I could do that. That's where that came from. And at the same time, I still wanted to do things like ballet, tap, jazz, hip hop. So my parents were really good about giving me exposure to both. But Indian classical dance is really where I thrived the most. And I felt the most connected to myself in that process. So
now you've said you've always wanted to be an actress and a dancer. When I've talked to various actors and actresses, it seems to be two different classes of people. There's the shy people looking to escape and become someone else. And that allows them to find their own inner voice. It allows them to be outside of themselves. There's the other group that likes the attention and likes the performance of it all. Where do you fit in all that?
I think I fit square in the middle. I've always, especially when I was younger, a child, I was very out there, outward, expressive of myself, very comfortable with the attention. By the time I got to, middle and high school, I really started caving into myself and feeling insecure about myself, as many people do. And I think it was truly me getting a chance to explore what theater and performance provides for you as a person. It does give you an outlet it's an excuse to put yourself out there. And a lot of people I knew got into it for that reason, to express themselves in a new way. And I found that coming out of those really difficult years of not feeling secure in myself, not knowing who I was, acting ended up being that outlet for me. And so now I'm that person who, on the one hand, I am very private. I don't like to have attention on me when I'm in my private moments. But on the other hand, if I'm turning it on for a show, I love that attention there. So it's very balanced for me, I suppose.
Now, a lot of parents, when they have children, they want them to become doctors, lawyers, teachers, and so I don't want to say they're not supportive, but when the child says, "I want to be an actor or an actress," they say, "That's great, that's cute, but we want you to." How are your parents, and did the fact that you seem to be always in kind of the entertainment or the creative industry from such an early age, was that something that they nurtured, or was there not negative pushback, but just parents being parents?
Totally. I mean, at first they were definitely a little concerned because they came from India and they've only heard stories about Bollywood and the Hollywood casting couch, and also just the fact that it is a very one in a million industry. It's a very difficult industry to break into. So on the one hand, they were very like, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But they also really instilled this sense in me of being pragmatic and practical and thinking 10 steps ahead, and also not being limited as a person to any one thing. Like, you can go to college and study whatever you want to study and be an actress. You can find different ways to support yourself and build your own career. Like, you can create your own opportunities. And so at first they were a little hesitant. They were like, okay, we thought you wanted to be six other things last week. But as soon as I was like, no, I'm willing to pay for my own classes, like I want to go do this, they were like, okay, you're serious about this. Well, if this is what you want to do, all we ask is that you put 100% into it, because otherwise we'll know that your heart's not really in it. You might be into it for other reasons. And that was all the encouragement I needed. And they've been so supportive, every step, like since I was a kid and I said it to them to now, they're always like, is this still something you want to put 100% into? Great. If so, we're happy for you. That's, and it's such a great relationship I have with my parents because of this and so many other reasons.
Now, not to diminish the hard work and everything that you've put into this, but you had a relatively short time appearing on like one episode here, one episode there, before becoming a series regular on a lot of shows. I mean, you've had a great opportunity or a great success of being cast in things that you had longevity in versus just a guest appearance on this or that. At what point did you realize that you had been that you kind of made it? I know you're always working, you're always, it's always a struggle for the next thing, but at what point did you feel that this was the right thing? I'm now an actress. And at what point did your parents realize that you were an actor? Like, sometimes parents, yeah, you're on that show, that's cute, but it wasn't until you were on this that they really thought that you made it.
I think for all of us, that big turning point was AP Bio. Before then, when I booked a guest star here or there, it still felt like I'm in the right place. So I'm working my way up to that next big thing, which, like you said, we're always in that position. We're always looking for the next big, better thing, right? But I remember calling my mom and dad after I filmed Grimm, which was like the first ever time I'd been on TV, and being like, this felt like home to me. I'm excited to see what that opportunity will be, that I get to do this all the time. And AP Bio really felt like that for me. And that was also my very first pilot season. It was very and now everything is very different in this industry. Like, pilot seasons are they're a lot different now, because now so much is streaming and so much is, it's all episodes. So at the time I had to do this audition, I had to do callbacks, I had to do so many callbacks, I had to do a network test. Then I got AP Bio, and then we had to wait for the pilot to get picked up. And so once all of those things happened, it felt like, for me and for my family, I had been tested so many times, and then here's your reward. It's a full show. You're in it. And the people who are in it really made me feel like, I'm doing something elevated and interesting. I mean, I'm working with Glenn Howerton and Patton Oswalt and Mike O'Brien and Paula Pell and all these other names that are legends in the comedy world. And so as a fledgling actor, it was such an incredible experience. Like, I feel like there's no better boot camp than getting to work with actors that are that caliber,
Mm-hmm.
And for my family, they were very like, oh, you're there, you've done it, like, I'm paying my bills full time as an actor now. That's amazing. So
Going from doing a couple of shows, a single episode, how are you received as a new young actress? Is it all business? Is there someone that stands out as a mentor that really kind of maybe took you aside and gave you advice or gave you comfort in what you were doing? Is there anyone that stands out?
Yeah, I'm really fortunate because the projects I've worked on generally, there's always been someone from each thing. I will say Glenn and Patton with AP Bio have been really, I mean, I've gotten pretty close with them both. They've been there for me, giving me advice with different projects. They've helped me with my own independent projects that I've done. They've really been guiding forces and celebrated every little success I've had. And I feel so fortunate with that. And with FUBAR, Arnold has been a tremendous like source of inspiration, a great mentor to me and to everyone in the cast. Like he really has spent the time getting to know us outside of just our roles on set, getting to like he's so happy to give advice to us and we're so happy to get it because he's a legend. He's done multiple things to a high level of excellence. You know what I mean? So it's like he's at that really, like he was the governor. He's like one of the most famous actors in the world, and he's so giving with his time and very, very generous with the insights he has to give. So I feel really fortunate.
I haven't interviewed most of the names that you're able to name drop, but I will say Patton Oswalt is one of the nicest people that I've had to deal with. I had an interaction with him once. It was for a red carpet, and I accidentally got skipped over for the red carpet, and all the actors went back in or went inside for the screening. And usually, once they do that, they're done. They're not going to come back out for the red carpet. And for some reason, he learned, or someone told him that one of the outlets got skipped over and didn't get to interview you. And he came back out, which I've done, 40 different red carpets, and I've never had a star learn that they missed someone and come back out to do an interview after they had gone in. Because once they go in, they're in their own little world. They're relaxed with their people and stuff like that. And so that really stood out to me, that he would be like, I'm going back out when he really didn't have to. So
no,
that
Patton's a
impressed me.
really lovely human being. He's so kind, very like everybody always said this about him, and this is what I truly feel, that he is really, really, he's genuinely so happy to be doing what he's doing, and he recognizes that it takes truly a village. It takes everyone, including the people interviewing you, to get you to where you are. And he's so humble about it. So I think that's always something to look up to, like someone who knows their value, their worth, but is also doesn't act like they're better than anyone over it, and is very humble about, like, they know how hard it is to get there. So I love hearing that.
And I love hearing that people that I admire or see something that goes out of their way, other people have seen that too. It's not just like a one-off. Or it's good to hear that the good people are realized as good people by other people. So
Absolutely.
in your IMDb, basically, like we talked about earlier, it was single episode, single episode, single episode, series regular, series regular, series regular. Was there a conscious jump to that? Did something change that you started getting more series regulars, or was it just a natural progression to you?
I feel that it was a mix of both. On the one hand, we were always targeting getting those bigger roles, but some of those doors you have to wait for them to open. When I had gotten AP Bio, for example, after about like a year and a half of being in LA, and which is still very swift. I'm very, very lucky and fortunate. But in that first year, it was like, the doors that would open to me being someone from Portland who's only had a couple of these little credits were for guest stars, co-stars, those little parts. And I really wanted to make it a point to be like, I appreciate any opportunity I'm getting. So even if it was like 2 lines or a little guest star or something that I would never be cast in, I would go and I would show, the casting directors like how much I appreciate the opportunity, the time. I would really commit to that. And so I think, when those doors finally opened for me, and part of that was my team had pitched me enough. I had been building up, my auditions had been getting better and better. My work on TV, like the spots that I was doing here and there, were getting stronger and stronger. I do feel like that did turn into a natural progression up. Although I will say in this industry, there's no like set path towards getting something other than booking a big thing and then a bigger thing and then a bigger thing. There's no real set path because that can change at any point for any person. So as much as I'm saying it's somewhat of a natural progression, it's also like very, very much chance.
Do you see yourself directing at any point?
Absolutely. I think some of the actresses and individuals I look up to most are multi-hyphenates. And I think most creative people, like every creative person I've met out here, is a multi-hyphenate, right? And as a woman of color in this industry, I find that the best way to get opportunities for yourself and for other people in your position is to create those opportunities for people. I really love what Margot Robbie, Reese Witherspoon, Nicole Kidman have been doing in creating their bigger production companies, which is a goal of mine down the road. Less like just a small one, but like a proper production company that can elevate some really unique voices and interesting perspectives. Like I think that could be really cool. And I am very interested in directing down the road. I think I still have so much to learn in that world, but I'm very fascinated by it. And I so often will be watching something being like, oh, if I were to do it, how would I do that? And so I definitely have a curiosity. And I think as my, behind the scenes work builds up more, I think those opportunities will come for me as well.
You mentioned, as a woman of color, do you feel there's an added pressure, right or wrong, on someone like you as a role model in this industry? I mean, no one ever talks about, Tom Cruise being a role model or Tom Hanks being a role model. They're just the actor, and they do their performances and we judge them on that. Do you feel like an added burden as a woman of color and even as a woman that the standards and everything are higher for you to be a role model? And is it something that you embrace, or you just do the best job that you can, put out the best work that you can, and let that judge you?
I think there's no doubt about it. There's definitely an added pressure for women of color and women and people of color in general. Any minority group, there's going to be an added pressure because the talent pool is so much smaller and the opportunities are even less. That is starting to change, of course, and I've been very fortunate to work despite that. But I would say there is an added pressure, but with that, it's also like an added responsibility. You get a role that a lot of people in the world can see, and you're representing an entire population of people while you're also your own individual person. So finding where those two things meet, the marriage between those two things is really important. Like I really it's really important to me whenever I'm considering a script or a project of any kind it's really important to me to see how the character I'm reading it for is being portrayed. If it's very specifically like this is an Indian person, are there stereotypes? Are those stereotypes subverted? Because I'm a fan of that. I do think that's fun. I got to do that with AP Bio. And if it's not like if it's not particular to an ethnicity and they're just open to anyone, is there something in that might make me look like I'm leaning into my ethnicity too much as a like it's such a hard space to be in where you're like I don't want to feel like people are limiting me based on my ethnicity, but I also want to do a good job of representing my ethnicity because I really love being Indian. I love my culture. I love my people, and we're all so diverse and different. Like every single person has a completely different lifestyle than mine. So it's obviously impossible to make everyone happy, but what can I do to make sure that we're seen as equals at the table?
Sure. And then one of the reasons I brought that up is I just had a guest on, and he was explaining that he could read a script and tell if it was written by someone that, like a white guy like me, had written it, or a minority, because he could tell immediately because the language seemed like written by someone that assumed certain things, and all of a sudden, the N word was being used or this word was being used, and he could tell that this wasn't someone that had lived that life, because they don't walk around talking like that, versus someone that had seen too many movies and assumed that that's how they all talk. And so I was fascinated to hear that, because that was something as a white person I had never thought of. But he could tell by the script how it was written, and if it was written fairly, he was open to doing certain things and being edgy in it. But if it was written by someone that had a bunch of assumptions, it was a turnoff, and that was something that I myself had thought of. And so I found that fascinating, the way he explained that. With
Definitely. I think you can definitely tell. And like you said, like he said, really, like if it's still interesting and layered and nuance, then yeah, it doesn't really matter who wrote it. But you can usually tell when there are those stereotypes being thrown in and other little things that you're like, I'm not sure I want to be a part of that. you know?
So FUBAR is out now. Tell us a little bit about what brought you to that role. What's that been like, and what's something that you're excited for your fans to see?
Well, FUBAR, I read for, it was still an untitled Arnold Schwarzenegger project. And to be honest, I was like, I'm going to read for it. What the hell? But why would I get that? I'm not established on that level. You know, it's just like the automatic imposter syndrome that so many people have. So I read for it. I sent the tape in and I kind of just forgot about it. And then within a couple of days, I was told the showrunner wanted to FaceTime with me and have a little chat. And I guess he had been a big fan of AP Bio, which I had no idea. He was like, yeah, my daughter and I have watched every episode. It's our bonding thing. And I've been a big fan of yours for a while. And I actually wrote this character with you in mind, but I didn't think you'd be available because I thought AP Bio was coming back, which was incredibly flattering to hear. Very, very, it just took me by surprise. And I still had to fight for the role though. He was like, here's the thing with your character that we haven't put in the breakdowns is that your character is a Russian double agent. So we're going to be having you play this sort of like, meek, mellow Clark Kent type, before the glasses come off and he's Superman. So that it really is like a twist of the knife, for the audience. And so I'm going to have you do some tapes for your, callback to send to Netflix that show both sides of that coin, which was really cool. I mean, I've never had a session like that with the showrunner where he's the one directing it, being like, okay, now do this, now try that. And from there, it was like, Netflix ended up offering me the role, and it was very much a whirlwind. Within a couple of months, I was flying off to Toronto to go film this thing. It's been such a blast. It's such a cool, fun show. Every day is truly so much fun. And you can tell because it's 4 a.m. and people are there and they're excited to be there. None of us are morning people. So and for this season, I'm really excited the audience kind of knows at the end of season 1 that, okay, Tina's a Russian double agent, the cat's out of the bag. This season, I think we're going to start seeing like actual glimpses into the spycraft she has, building up into like her bigger purpose in all of this and where things will land for her. So I'm really excited for people to see Tina in a completely different way, being just as much a badass spy as the rest of them, but maybe not necessarily on the right team. That's
Now you've had a very successful career in a short amount of time. I mean, and I don't mean to downplay any of your hard work, but you've had a successful career very fast, very, to be series regulars on these shows. And these aren't just little shows. These are very popular shows. What advice would you have to young women, even young boys looking at becoming actors and actresses? What's the biggest advice that you would give to them?
Gosh, I have so much advice I could give to people, but the biggest one that stands out to me was actually something I heard John Bernthal say when I was like, 8 or 9 years ago. I heard him say it somewhere where he said, don't worry about what rooms you get into, worry about what you're doing in those rooms, and everything else will pan out. Like, trust that you have that ability to do something cool and interesting in that room. Focus on that. It's so easy to be hard on ourselves and feel like we're not good enough, or like everyone around us is doing great and we're not. It's so easy to fall in that spell. And believe me, everyone at every level, even if you're Oscar nominated, everyone is going through that same mentality. And it's so easy to get caught up in all the things that aren't happening. So focus on the things that are happening, the things that make you unique. The things you get rejected for, those things make those your armor, and use that to like stand out and just own who you are. That's all I can really advise. I think the more you that you are, the more successful you'll be in this business.
Finally, so much of you is based on what you've done. We say Aparna, she was in Grimm, Aparna from AP Bio, Aparna from this and that. But when you wake up in the morning and you go into the bathroom and splash a little water on your face and look in the mirror for the first time in the morning, who is it that you see?
I see Aparna, who is a person who has a wonderful group of friends and family that she loves deeply, that gets to live in a beautiful city, Los Angeles, that is privileged to get to play for her job, but that's not the first thing I'm thinking. I'm just thinking of all the blessings that I have in life. Even when life gets really tough, I actually do have a ritual of like, I'll go to the bathroom and I'll start getting my day. And as I start my day, I think about all those things that I'm grateful for and the things that keep me human. I'm just another human being. That's what I'm thinking of first thing in the morning. And I'm so grateful to be one. So,
Well, Aparna, thank you for coming on. FUBAR is out right now and invite people to check it out. But thank you for coming on, and we look forward to seeing what your career takes you.
thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.